Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 17900 Southwest Arborcrest Court here in Beaverton, located at the front of the house. And I describe everything as if you're standing out in the street. Oop, get oriented here. I'm facing towards the road, you can't see it right now. Anyway, standing out in the road, facing the front of the house, the front door. So we are just to the left of the front doorway here, right by this vent well. Underneath the, there's two concrete lids, the smaller of the two. The one that also sits directly in front of the vent well is the sewer, or underneath it anyway, is the sewer line. 4-inch ABS clean out will be our point of access. We're going to insert the camera, check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running. We are zeroed out. Off we go here. So we are transitioning immediately upon access over to 3034 PVC. It almost looks like you got some dirt and gravel in the line right there. It's hard to tell what that is with the standing water, but that's kind of what that looks like. And then transitioning back over to what looks like ABS plastic. So you do have a belly there in the line. That section of pipe there was spot repaired. My assumption is it's probably related to the tree or the bush that sits right next to the sewer line, the clean out. Pretty good likelihood there was a root there. Unfortunately, post-repair, that section bellied out. And we're going to take another look at this joint as we come back out. If you look up on the about midway up the right side of the pipe wall there, that water line, that looks like it's sucking groundwater through it. Now that spot there, you'd have to, we'll verify that here in a moment. Once I shut the water off, what we're going to see when we're out at the main is the water will never stop running. And when we get back to that spot, we will likely see groundwater seeping through there. Now, assuming that joint is indeed compromised, which I think it is, because it's a 4-inch line, 4-inch access, you likely have the ability, at least theoretically, to do something like a trenchless epoxy liner. And we're going to call this basically 77 feet. We're just shy of that. Now, the only part that you'd have to consult a repair company, I know with the new blue light systems, they do not require heat anymore. They can use UV rays. So the only concern is whether or not you can get the liner to expand out, seal that off, and cure it in a fashion that will actually seal the joint up. So you'd want to run that past a liner company to see the feasibility of it. You know, if it was a root intrusion or something like that, I wouldn't be in the least concerned that you'd be able to accomplish it. With groundwater actively penetrating the line there, you know, it's possible you may have to wait till summertime to do a fix like that where the ground dries out or something, but that's worth looking into. I have a sneaking suspicion that's going to be out there potentially under concrete. So we're going to go locate. We've hit the main here at about 77. Just push back out. No, sorry, I had some slack in my camera cable. It is indeed 76 feet. All right, we're gonna go locate while the pipe drains off. Alrighty, located the camera head successfully out on Southwest Arborcrest. So the line takes kind of an interesting trajectory. If you're standing out in the middle of the cul-de-sac facing the house, the line terminates, I mean, it heads almost right to, I mean, this is approximating just for visual, just imagining it or visualizing it. Where the neighbor's mailbox is, the house directly to the left of this home, the line terminates right in front of their mailbox. I'm picking the locate up just out in the road, though, a few feet off the curb. I've had water turned off now for quite a while, so it looks like water's still percolating through that spot from the looks of it. But anyway, someone else had put a green T marking down very near where I was locating. I don't know if that's for a different house. It's kind of an odd trajectory the line takes. It doesn't do a straight shot out. I mean, it cuts pretty hard to the left. Heading over that direction, but that marking there, at first I thought someone may have put a bad locate down because it's off by about 4 or 5 feet. It looks like it's under the sidewalk where they located. So I snapped a photo of that. They are using green paint. I'm using white paint, so you can see the difference. All right, and there is plenty of white paint out there. I'm trying to differentiate. Mine's obviously going to be a lot brighter I'm using little arrows now. I just put an arrow down. We're right at the front right corner of driveway skirt of the neighbor to the left. Just crossing over that spot there. So I would keep my eyes peeled or check with title. I would imagine there's some kind of easement the way that the line traverses. I don't know though. There we go. Yeah, this thing's sucking plenty of groundwater through it. And so the concern right now, this isn't doing anything to affect functionality. In fact, it's probably in the immediate only improves things by adding flow. The problem is over time that can lead to hydro erosion. It can erode the soil from around the sewer line, cause progressive settling. I mean, the worst case scenario with stuff like this is you can create a sinkhole. The line can hydro erode the soil from over top the line, under it, to the side. It can cause settling to the ground above it, all kinds of fun stuff. So anyway, this is something I do recommend a repair on. I'm going to go locate this right now. And I'm going to mark this, as long as I can locate it effectively, with a white X. And this spot's going to be one that needs to probably be relocated. It's a tricky location. So you have a walking path that separates this house from the home directly to the left, the red house. Right now we're sitting, smack dab underneath, like right in the middle, underneath a cinder block retaining wall. It's right where that wall meets the path. It's an awkward spot to locate because you have very different depths there. You're also locating through some odd substrate, but when you have like a wall like that, sometimes the signal can come out of the ground a little bit funny, and you can get some depths that aren't exactly right on the money. So I'm going to try and locate here to get an idea of depth. All right, even right here, I'm having a little bit of a time getting a nice, accurate depth for some reason. I don't know if we've got interference with utilities. We're going right through the middle of the big flower garden out front. I'm getting my most consistent depth is hovering right around 6 feet, but the locate for some reason is just running a little bit. When I just hold the depth down, it sits there and jumps between 6 feet and about 7 feet deep. So just, the line doesn't dive off, super hard or anything like that from that point to where the bad joint is at. So, assuming you had to go through that wall and it's not just barely as that line comes out from underneath that wall there, that's what makes the wall tricky, is that signal can come out of the ground a little bit funky. But it is right where that hits the asphalt walkway. So, if it's something you can do trenchlessly, I would go for it. It's also one that, because it is so darn close to that asphalt, you might be able to actually pull the wall back a little bit, remove some of it, and if you had to, potentially tunnel a little bit under the asphalt. So the standing water here dissipates off at about 8 feet. You can see where it finally starts to run. And granted, by this point in the belly, it's quite minor. But to fix a belly, you have to fix the entirety of it. You can't just fix part of it. I'm going to try this one more time here. There's just enough grease in the flow line, it can cause a little bit of water to stand. Actually, it's probably close to about 7. That's a tricky one. I'm going to be on the safe side. I'm going to take this out to about 8 feet. And most repair guys are going to want to overshoot it anyway a little bit, just to help ensure they get grade on it. But, this stuff needs to be relocated and, put a level on things. All right, this is the belly dissipates off here just as the line gets out from underneath the flagstone or the slate here, right around 2.5 feet deep there, just before the fence line. And part of my concern about the belly here is the fact that it looks like we've got some dirt, and although some of it looks like it's washed away there, I don't know if that came through a bad pipe joint. That's my concern, and that happens sometimes with when a line bellies out. It can just put torque on that joint and cause it to open. It's kind of hard to say. I'm going to flip around here. I'm a little worried I'm going to see this, darn it. So the belly actually starts just before the clean out access. So if you realistically don't take that repair back to about where this foundation vent is, you won't be able to correct it. But if you look at the slate stone here, you can see where it's sunken. Yeah, that takes me just right to about the foundation wall there. And real quick, I mentioned earlier I was going to mark the bad joint with an X. Because of its location, I didn't want to go put a whole bunch of paint down. I put a small white dot, and it's water-based paint, on the cinder block. And then one right where the cinder blocks meet the asphalt. So I just didn't want to put a ton of paint down there, being that it's a walkway and a wall. I just didn't want to paint the heck out of it. And I'm getting a pretty consistent, about 2'5" to 2'7" deep. So what this is going to read is basically from, this is based off the clean out, from about -2 feet. That's 2 feet prior to the clean out to about 8 feet away from the clean out. You've got a belly there. So, and the cap, when I first got here and popped this lid open, this cap was not threaded on properly. It was sitting cattywampus. So it's possible debris has gotten down into the line in that manner. I'm not entirely sure why the thing was left that way, but anyway, my concern there was as soon as we dropped in, there looked like there was some fine little bits of gravel and a little bit of dirt in the line. It's entirely possible that stuff has migrated through the transition joint there, right where the ABS meets the PVC. So you'll see a marking here. I've got a little white dot. I'm trying not to paint the stone. There's a little white line between the slate, and then another one here on the other side of it. About 2.5 feet deep across that section there. So I do recommend a fix on it to repair that. And about the only time these days, after about 25,000 sewer scopes now, typically speaking, the only time I recommend repairs anymore on bellies are when they're very close proximity to the home, and or if I can see some level of evidence that the joints may be open to the ground or compromised, so which can lead to progressive shifting. So I can't guarantee that debris that we saw as we dropped in there came from the pipe joint. It's entirely possible that some amount of substance fell down through the clean out cap. The cap was just sitting here. In fact, I'll show it really quick. It's like someone had come in here to do something and forgot about putting it back on. Dang thing was sitting like that. So, hard to say. Either way, there's a belly there. Recommend a repair there, as well as at the compromised pipe joint, allowing groundwater to seep through. I recommend a rescope afterwards. You want to do that when the trench is closed, to ensure that no further settling has taken place. In this case right here, you'll have to pull some slate up. You want to check the line after it's buried, and you've got it compacted, ready to put things back in place. Same thing for the retaining wall area. Bury it to the extent that you can. Check it now that there's a load on top of it, and make sure no settling has taken place. And if everything's looking good at that point, then you are much safer to go and seal things up and either repave over it or put the slate back down. Otherwise, the rest of the line here is in good condition, has good flow. Through the bellied area here, I don't use the terminology pass or fail unless a line is blocked and backing up. It is still functioning to some extent. So the way that I will write this up here is it is functioning, but it is draining slower than it should due to the standing water. And potentially at some point down the road, that joint out there that's compromised could very well lead to that as well. Right now, it's not. That's more of a safety hazard potentially. If it does cause hydro erosion, it can cause progressive settling, lead to offset joints, bellies, things like that. Cause the wall to sink. So I recommend getting those all corrected there. Otherwise, everything else is looking good. And if for some reason the belly is not repaired, what I would recommend doing, especially if you have a larger household with kiddos in it, these bellies they're the hardest stuff to get through them, typically speaking, are your improper items, balled up toilet paper, flushable wipes. I include those in the improper category. I don't recommend ever using them, especially if you have standing water in the line. So you want to keep it to stuff that easily breaks down, disintegrates, toilet paper, things of that nature. But keep the cooking oil, grease, wipes, paper towels, stuff like that out of the line. That helps to mitigate buildup. But I always recommend re-scoping at the 1 year mark. As it sits right now, this line is quite clean. So you would get a pretty good baseline at a year as to how it's handling your living habits. If the lines were all gunked up with a bunch of buildup and everything, I'd recommend jetting. And what little substance is in the line right now in that belly, a lot of it cleared out with just running a lot of water through the pipe. So, in my opinion, there's no need to go jetting the sewer line or anything like that. There's just hardly anything in there to justify doing so. But that lets you get a nice picture a year from now as to how it's handling habits, the way you guys are living, and whether you need to adjust anything, as how you're, cleaning your pans off, for instance, or whatnot. So, and I would clean as needed up until you're, ready to do a repair.